Very warm welcome back, everyone. So today's topic is around CSS and styling our React applications. Now, while we will not go into the depths of CSS itself, we will look at how we can use CSS to style our React applications. I still wanted to, at the beginning of the class, give you guys a list of different important resources that I have personally used to deepen my understanding of CSS and knowledge on CSS. So first and foremost, W3 School CSS. This is like a must for anybody who is looking into getting into mobile or web development. Uh, just go through. These are all the basic properties of CSS to shadows, and this is interactive, so you can play with that, and play with yourself, and see what happens. So let's say I could change it here. And again, I'm not endorsing any particular website, but uh, choose your website and learn. So first topic is basic CSS. Then you guys should, this is a great article again that I go back several times to understand the CSS Flexbox. Flexbox is a modern construct in CSS. I mean, not so modern anymore. It's been around for a while, which helps you align your elements in web page and mobile app. Specifically, Flexbox is really great when you're dealing with small screens. So this is another great resource. And the modern generation is now moving towards something that is known as atomic CSS. So instead of writing this kind of uh, class on your own, where you have to mention each individual property, you would just use a property called background white. You'll use a CSS class known as background white to style. So these are some of the very important resources that uh, you guys must know. Two things for the modern generation for sure is CSS Flexbox, and very similar to that are CSS grids, and the other is Tailwind, so Atomic CSS and Tailwind, widely used and widely adopted. Uh, well, these things are out of the purview of this course. I highly recommend you guys to spend some time on them, practice some of this on your free time, and then get good with the CSS. With that being said, today we are going to build. So today's application that we are building is a simple profile page that you would see in a social media website. So in a social media website, you see this kind of a profile page. Ignore this text. Let me remove this. Uh, you would see something like this, always. So this is our regular React application built with certain components and built with a certain style around it. So this avatar image is a round circle, the Twitter is a blue, GitHub is like a gray dark button, and our text are light gray and big. So all of this are uh, controlled by something called styles or CSS style. And the most basic way for you to apply styles in a React component is simply say, as I was doing earlier, and say you have this. Let me wrap this in a better state, so you guys have a better way to see. Okay, page, and then you can simply define an inline style which is color red. And now we get a profile page. And then a typical CSS property, which is like a two line, so like a text align, is written as camel case in React. So you can use camel case to do this. And my profile page is centered. Uh, what is happening here is now this style, if I wanted to uh, apply to another thing, I'll have to copy paste over and over. So let's say some subheading, and I wanted the color to be green or red. I'm copying too many styles into the React application. So React, to handle this kind of repeating style code, offers multiple ways, and they are driven highly by the actual compilers and the tooling we have around React application. So the um, first concept in this is CSS modules. So CSS modules are something very unique to different compilers like Babel or Byte that we are using. Though something that takes my uh, my regular React code and converts it to a JavaScript and HTML code that my browser can understand. That is the job of uh, a, a parser, compiler, you can call it many things. And we have been using Byte as our tooling. So Byte has been always behind the scene, taking whatever React code I write and converting to a regular HTML code. So let's say if I go here and inspect, I'm able to see this is a regular HTML code. Nothing too extraordinary about it. Uh, but we are actually coding in React. So Byte has a very good uh, mechanism, which is called CSS modules, where you define different styles and you put them in classes, and then White takes this file and converts it to a JavaScript object which looks like this. So it creates a JavaScript object called style, uh, something which looks like this, and it has its own properties. And this JavaScript object will have like a social, then have bio, and each of these will have associated styles to them. So essentially, White takes a normal CSS file and converts it to a JavaScript object style that then my React code can understand. So let's look at what we are doing here. So this is a profile card component which is useful for showing this part of my React application, and I am importing my style from module.css. So profile card module CSS file is giving me a JavaScript object named styles. But if I go here, it's a plain CSS file. And then I take that object and I treat each class inside that file as an individual property, and I use them as a class name on my HTML elements inside my React JSX code. So previously we saw something, we were doing something like this style is equal to, we were doing inline style, something like this we were doing. Class name is the way to provide classes, CSS classes to my HTML elements in React. So we combine the concept of class name and CSS module, and CSS class name typically expects JavaScript object. So that is what my CSS module is doing. So let me write it down here actually to make it clear. We create a CSS file with prefix module, and this gets this has pure CSS definitions. Now, a tooling like Vite or Babel takes this module CSS, and converts to style JavaScript objects. And my React can then import them as class name props, class name props. So this is the beauty of CSS modules, where we are taking regular CSS code like this, converting to object, and then using that code to style my React component. Any confusions on CSS module? I'll stay silent for a few seconds if you guys have any questions. So another modern way is to use something called style components. Style components are a modern library that is built on top of React that can help you create pre-styled pre-styled HTML elements like div or span or header, and then use them anywhere into your application. What benefit this gives us is you have now a div that looks, if you use this stats container component, which has wrapped a regular div HTML element with this many styles, now you get the same consistent style that ev- wherever you use that. So for example, stats item, right? So let's look at our stats item, right? Now I have used my stats item to show in my application different stats. Here is post, here is followers, here is following, three different stats, but all three of them look identical because I took my concept and converted it to style component. So to use a style components is a JavaScript library that is on top of React. First we need to do is ins install this library, which you might have guessed it, npm install, and then create HTML elements with styles with styles, and then use them throughout the app. That way, you will have your elements in HTML on your page look similar wherever they are. The style components are nothing but wrappers on your regular HTML elements, you know. So let's go back to our app.jsx, right? So here we had this too. Let's try to do this. So we import and let's copy this. We create a new style component. Let's say style header style.h1, and we say text align center color green. Now instead of using our regular h1 and doing this many things, I can simply do style header and profile page. Let's keep it side by side. So I was able to create the same thing with style components because I abstracted away my style into one place. So I don't need to write text line center over and over again and color green over and over again. And this looks much cleaner and much user friendly to maintain in the future. And this makes actually the biggest need for this kind of an approach is to make applications scalable. So this is about style components. I'll quickly pause here and give you guys to think what we just did here and ask any questions if you have. Okay, so quickly recap before we move on to a different topic. We saw three different ways to create inline styles, then CSS modules, and style components. So these are the different ways you can style your React application. Now, every React application will have some sort of images or static content or stuff like that. So, for example, here the profile you see is nothing but an image. So, this is an image that I have that I'm displaying here. And this kind of details which are static in nature, that means your profile image is never going to be changing, right? But your role might change. You might become a full stack developer from front end developer. Your post might increase, your followers and your following might increase, but your profile image is most likely going to be static and not going to change. So to have this kind of things in our application, we use a special folder named assets and we copy over those images inside assets and then use them inside our application. So here I am importing my avatar from directly the avatar.jpg and because I don't need to provide a name like asset or something because my app then, when running, the application copies over this assets parallel to index HTML and I'm able to access them normally. So to uh, use that, you can uh, use the assets folder. In fact, I use this in my personal website as well. So this is my portfolio resume, a lot of things. And you see a lot of data here. I tend to save them a lot of things in the assets. For example, you can sort of uh, uh, look at all of this. These are all assets. Like for example, my education is never going to change, you know. So that's the static uh, details. What I mean to say is assets can be more than just images, depending upon what your website needs. So that's the final topic we have to cover today. Any questions on this? Stop recording.